You are now listening to the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Welcome to the Radiance Films Podcast, a show dedicated to all things Radiance Films. I am your host, Adam Lundy, and today my guest is Aaron West. I didn't mean for that to rhyme. Hello, Aaron.
Hello, Adam. I love poetry, so let's make it rhyme.
Perfect.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm a little bit sick. Listeners might be able to pick that up. Aaron picked it up pretty quick. I'm a little bit sick. It seems like I said this to Aaron
Uh,
before we recorded. It seems like every time I'm recording one of these episodes, I pick up a little tiny dose of something. But
well, what I
otherwise, I'm
said
fine.
is that. I'm sorry. What I said is that if you hadn't said anything, I would not have noticed. So now that you've said anything, everybody's going to be listening to your your illness
That's
for the
fine.
rest of the episode.
I'm
Yeah,
I'm o- I'm
but
okay.
it
I'm okay with
happens.
that. It is what
It's
it
that time of
is.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It is that time of year for sure. There's a lot of worse doses going around at the moment than
Yes.
what I have, so that's absolutely fine by me. Um, if you are, as a listener, if you are anyway ingrained in the They Live by Film cinematic universe, you might recognize Aaron was on an episode of They Live by Film just before Christmas talking about Citizen Kane, or not Citizen Kane, Orson Welles
Or
related
Orson Welles.
stuff. So,
Well,
Aaron, I
it came
appreciate you
up.
jumping in for this. Just in case there's any listeners who aren't familiar with who you are and kind of what you do, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself?
Do I want to talk about myself? Wow. Yeah, so I've been doing this for a while. If you know the Criterion podcast, Criterion Cast, my podcast has been, or my two projects have been Criterion Close Up and Criterion Now. And boy, adding it up, I think it's been about a decade, maybe even longer. And I had a blog before that about Criterions. So I'm what some people would call a Criterion bro, but my tastes go well beyond that. I'm very much a student of film and history. In fact, that's my degree, my studies, and so yeah, I've been a podcaster, I've been a writer, and I actually when we did Criterion, and we still have Criterion now, but we tend to like to cover other labels. So I've been following Arrow Video for a number of years. The old school days when Fran was there, and so I'm a big fan of Fran, big fan of Arrow. We've actually done some episodes of Arrow that are actually very outdated now, but the big thing right now that I'm working on is a book actually, and it is a called the it's about the film studio distributor production company A24. So probably a name that a lot of people recognize. A very popular label. They won a lot of Oscars. And I actually got the idea earlier this year, just thinking about seeing some of the films that came out, like Dune 2, for example. I know that's a mainstream film, but you can see some art house sensibilities, including some influences like even Tarkovsky or people like that. And I kind of my thesis at that point was that I think we're in a new wave movement for American independent, and then in the case of Dune 2, it led to commercial film. So I'm writing a book called The A24 New Wave, and I'm close to finish with the first draft manuscript. It's been a lovely topic, but I've approached it from a new wave perspective. So Radiance Films is very much a new wave type of label. So a lot of the films they release are of my interest and kind of my jumping off point for this. And I do refer to prior new wave movements, including I'm sure some we'll talk about today. We're actually announcing a Kickstarter or launching a Kickstarter on Monday. So that'll after the weekend, it'll go up. In fact, you can even search for A24 today, and you'll see a coming soon page. But we have illustration from Caitlin Kuwald, who has done a lot of covers. She actually did a pinball machine in Milan, in Italy, of all things, for Wes Anderson's cafe. So she's done a lot, and it's a gorgeous cover. And yeah, I'm writing about this label, and so it's basically a history book of the label, kind of. If you know Peter Biskind or Biskind, I'm not sure how you say his name, but Down and Dirty Pictures, those kind of books. It's kind of like that, but it's from a film studies perspective. I do kind of get into the auteurs. So for example, I just finished a Greta Gerwig chapter, which so far is my favorite. Really enjoyed seeing that. And I talk about their time with A24. In the case of Gerwig, it was just Lady Bird, and then kind of talk about how that the time they put in there, in Gerwig's case also, is as an actress in a lot of independent cinema, and how that they become, the most prominent voices in filmmaking today. So Villeneuve and Gerwig are two huge examples. But there's also Barry Jenkins. There's the Safdie brothers, Sean Baker, of course. Nora now is a awards contender. So yeah, we expect the first draft to be finished probably in a couple months, and the Kickstarter will go on for 45 days, and we have a lot of art prints, totes, fun stuff. So hopefully your listeners, Radiance folks, will support us, and I think they'll find it very interesting coming from this perspective.
For sure. I know I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, you've kind of told me snippets here and there about the project just through conversations, outside of podcasts and stuff. And it sounds like a really exciting project. Of course, I'll have all the links and stuff in the description. So if you do want to check that out, go down and support that if that's your thing. You mentioned obviously that you're very experienced from the Arrow side of things, from Fran's career and the Genesis then into Radiance. If I'm remembering correctly, you're now a subscriber for Radiance. Is your first year subscribing?
It is my first year. I finally broke down. I mean, so FOMO is a real thing
It truly is.
and I've seen all these releases, and I of course I'm a physical media guy, so and Radiance has just been doing a superb. I'm really from day one, and I remember being I wouldn't say skeptical, because I like I said, I was a fan back then. That's hard to say, fan. Uh, but and I liked just the way he operated. He would give us the little teasers, the little notepad teasers. But that I'm an entrepreneur. I have my own company that Adam, I know you're part of, called Cine Journeys. So I respect the him going and starting his own thing, and we have a mantra on our project. Our company is called Cine Journeys, which you're aware of.
Mhm.
But we've been building it for 2 years, and we say often that we built what we wanted to exist, and the sort of discourse and film community. So I kind of think I kind of see Fran as being like-minded. I think he built the film label he wanted to exist, and I think he's very much succeeded with Radiance. And yes, I'm tickled pink seeing the release slates that I'm going to get finally, that we'll be talking about here shortly. And yeah, just congratulations to Fran and this label. It's really one of the best out there. I think an argument could be made for the best out there as far as bringing foreign, independent, obscure film, and also just the packaging and the extras. I mean, it's really phenomenal. So it's a treat to be here, Adam, and I appreciate you inviting me.
Oh, it's my pleasure as always, Aaron. Yeah, well, we'll get into the release slate. We're recording this on Thursday, the 9th of January, so the releases were announced yesterday. Although if you were keeping track of Radiance's social media accounts, they did put a teaser up on Tuesday that a lot of people figured out the titles relatively. I'm not going to say easily, but within an hour, everyone was pretty much on the same page with what the titles were going to be, which was cool, as I got an extra kind of evening worth of um, what's the word? Study or
Prep.
prep, yeah, to look into it. The first one I'm just gonna go through the list as they're kind of done here on the website. And the only title that I had seen out of the current release slate for April, if I remember correctly. Let me just double check. Yeah, 28th of
Yes, it was
April.
April.
So the only one I've seen, which I will say, in terms of Radiance release slates, even the fact that I've seen one of these films, let alone heard of them, is pretty good going. It's rare I've even heard of most of the films that get announced, but the fact that I've even seen one, this might be only the second time I've seen something prior to Radiance announcing it.
Wow,
Um,
wow.
yeah, it's been a while. It's been a wild time for me. Well, actually, no, that's a lie. Third time now with some of the stuff we're going to talk about later.
Okay.
But the first one out is the Kelly Reichardt film, it's her debut film, which is called River of Grass. For those unfamiliar, just to kind of read the blurb from the website, in a rundown small town between Miami and the Everglades, Cozy, a dissatisfied housewife, longs for an adventure. One night at a nearby bar, she meets Lee Ray, an equally disaffected handyman who's never left home. As sparks fly between them, a gun accidentally goes off. Thinking they've committed murder, the pair decide to flee, but their naive natures and limited bank balances mean they don't get very far. Yeah, so it's kind of like a Bonnie and Clyde, but like with the most normal kind of like working class people possible. Um, it's a very good film, especially as a debut film. I'm a big fan of Kelly Reichardt. I think she is one of the best working directors right now. She has such a unique vision. So getting this from radio, like I was so excited when people were guessing this, and now that it's been confirmed, I was so excited for it because I'm just such a huge Kelly fan. So seeing this film get the love that it will now get really excites me. I'm really looking forward to this edition.
Yeah, I think Kelly is, yeah, I agree. She is one of the most prominent filmmakers in independent art cinema. So I'm a big fan of Meek's Cutoff. I really
Yeah,
love revisionist westerns, and
Nick's
that's one of
Cutoff
my
is
favorite.
amazing. Yeah.
It's terrific, yeah. And so speaking of A24, so I'm going to be writing. I haven't decided whether to do a chapter on Reichardt. I would like to, but she has, I believe it's First Cow and
Hmm.
Showing Up, which are
Yeah.
both good. And those were A24, but yeah, Old Joy is something I love, and that has Will Oldham, who
Hmm.
has a great performance. Certain Women, Wendy and Lucy. Actually, I haven't seen Showing Up yet, so that's my blind spot. So I'm looking forward to that. Rivers of Grass was, is it River of Grass or
River of Grass
Rivers?
singular, yes.
River of Grass. I always do that. Yes, so that's an oscilloscope title, and I'm
Indeed.
a fan of that. That's a U.S. company. I'm not sure if they get overseas that much, but they did a Kickstarter, and I thought I supported it, but I think I misremembered because I looked it up just 5 minutes ago and I hadn't. But I do have that disc because I had subscribed to the oscilloscope, and yeah, the one thing about some filmmakers is that when they're quality filmmakers, when they have that technique they studied, they know what to do. We saw it with, a lot of these new wave movements. Their first films were phenomenal. So in fact, I would say that Kelly is a big part of this, what I'm considering a new wave. People might not agree, so there are bad films too, like I said with Gerwig, Lady Bird was her first film, first solo directed film. She had a co-directed film under the Mumblecore. But I think River of Grass is very accomplished. And yes, I've seen it too, but it's been a while, and I know we don't get into the plot details anyway. But it really was a great introduction to her work. So if you like Kelly Reichardt, I would say you are going to want to buy this. This is probably one of the, based on what I've seen, one of the releases of the month for me. So huge get for them.
For sure, for sure. And the special features are all pretty good as well, as usual with Radiance. There's an audio commentary by Kelly Reichardt and Larry Fessenden, who does co-star in the film.
Yes.
There is an interview with writer and curator So Mayer. There is a visual essay on the career of Larry Fessenden, which includes obviously work with Reichardt. I know Larry Fessenden is a huge guy for indie film lovers. Love Larry Fessenden. Chris, who does They Live by Film, is a huge Larry Fessenden guy, so I think he's going to be psyched about this release as well. And then, as usual, there's a nice booklet that's going to have some writing by Caitlin Quinlan. So, as usual, it looks like some really good special features. And yeah, this is the oscilloscope restoration as well, so it looks like it is just a straight port
Yeah.
from what they put out, which makes sense. If it already looks good, there's no point in trying to do something new.
And I didn't check a oscilloscope or look at my disc, but it's upstairs on the shelf. But it might be a port of the commentaries as well. But I think yeah, the Fessenden feature. First off, if you don't know Larry Fessenden, oh my Lord, buckle up. I'm with you, Adam and Chris. He is something. Of course, there are a lot of iconic roles of his that yeah, if you don't know him, you've seen him. I think of Adam Wingard's You're Next.
Yeah,
He is basically just a face. He's got a guy sitting on a couch, but he's a really a great face and really if provides a flavor to the film that enhances it. So I don't quite remember, what he does in this film or his performance. I'm sure it's great. He's always great, but his career retrospective or this essay about him, um, I think is almost as valuable as the film. I can't wait for that.
So after River of Glass, we move into
Grass.
River of Grass, yes. We
Sorry.
move into a film that I had heard of, but I haven't seen, and that is Girl with a Suitcase. This is a Claudia Cardinale film, well, starring Claudia Cardinale, and it's by a guy called Valerio Zerlini, who I am not familiar with. I even went and checked and haven't seen any of his films. I wasn't even really aware of any of his films. Um, and I hadn't seen this one, as I said. I don't know if you're familiar with this film at all, Aaron. Girl with a
Yeah, this is actually
Suitcase.
a pretty big film. I
Okay.
haven't seen it, so and that again, that's kind of the great thing about Radiance is that they introduce so many films to audiences. So I've been wanting to see this. I don't know that this has had a Blu-ray or any sort of physical release anywhere, but yeah, it does have Claudia Cardinale. I believe it's a pretty early film for her or early role. And and yeah, I think it's going to be something else. It also has I forget the name of is it Perrin, the gentleman from Jacques Perrin,
Yeah, Jacques Perrin
and
from Cinema Paradiso.
he's the older character, older version of the character from Cinema Paradiso. So most people, probably a lot of people, I would imagine, that are Radiance fans have seen that. But he's actually had quite a career. In fact, he directed the documentary Winged Migration. So. I was actually kind of surprised. I know Claudia Cardinale is going to sell copies of this movie,
For sure.
rightfully so. She's great, but he's quite an actor as well. And Zerlini, I think did he do Big Deal on Madonna Street? I'm sorry, I
No,
did
he
not
didn't
prep
do that
enough.
one. No, I actually watched that film very recently, which is great. He didn't do that. I can't actually remember who did Big Deal on Madonna Street, but it's not him. I remember that much, because I watched that very recently. Um, Let me double. Yeah, well, I had already looked at his filmography, and I nothing had jumped out at me as something
Oh,
that I.
Cardinale was in that, yeah.
Yeah,
So
oh
yeah.
yeah, Cardinal had a small role in Big Deal in Madonna Street. It was a more of a supporting role than a leading one. But looking at Zerlini's filmography here, um, yeah, it's stuff that I haven't heard of. Indian Summer, 1972.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Seen that one from 1972? Okay.
I think that was on
Yeah.
the channel. Well, there are a lot of summer films, and Ozu has probably about 20, so I could be confused.
But this one
But
stars
I
Alain
do.
Delon, so yeah, it very much could have been on the Criterion Channel at some point. It's a Delon starring film. He has another one called Violent Summer. He has Family Diary, The Camp Followers. Yeah, stuff I'm not re I haven't heard of them personally. Not to say they're not good or anything, but yeah, he's a director. It's very much a blind spot director for me.
Yeah, I want to say this is like kind of a post neorealism film. So like when DeSica started doing romantic comedies, I think this might be in that family, if I remember correctly. So yeah, this is a new discovery for me that I'm very much looking forward to. But yeah, even though I don't know the director that well, the acting talent is pretty great. So looking forward to this, and I've heard good things. Heard it's
Yeah, what led me to learn that this film existed was, funnily enough, was indirectly because of Radiance already. It was because I was seeking out more films that had Gian Maria Volante, and it looks as though
hmm.
he has a smaller supporting role in this film. Just going in terms of like the credits, he's quite far down in the credits. So I added it to my letterbox watch list, and like this is weeks ago, or even a couple of
Oh
months ago.
wow.
I added it to my watch list just because I was looking for more Volante films because I had loved all the ones that Radiance had put out so far, where he was starring in them. So when I saw the title, I was like, I know this from somewhere. And then I looked at the cast list, like, oh, this is one of the Volante films I have on my watch list. So that's the only reason why I know about it. So it's funny that it kind of came full circle that way, that I only really learned about it because I was seeking out more Volante stuff because of Radiance.
Well, you made this happen, Adam. So thank you for that.
I willed it into existence. If only I
You
could will some
did.
of the other
You
films that I
wish
put on my watch.
listed.
Well, there's a few other on my watch list now that don't have any releases that I'm hoping I've also willed into existence, but we'll have to wait and see for that. Special features on this as well. So this is actually just to say it's a 4K restoration. It's obviously not a 4K release. We're still yet to see one of those announced, but it's a 4K restoration done by the Cineteca di Bologna, who obviously everyone knows they do some of the best work in restoration. It features a some archival interviews with assistant director, screenwriter, film critic. It does have a visual essay by Kat Ellinger, who of course does a lot of work with Radiance in various capacities. She's fantastic. She's so knowledgeable. Um, and once again, also features it features writing. Um, One thing I and didn't mention that with the last release, but also with this one, both of the ones we've talked about so far, they are region free. So they are available in A, B, and C, for both River of Grass and Girl with a Suitcase, just in case there's any listeners from across the pond listening in. These ones so far are region free, so you're not gonna have to worry if you import these or if you buy them from the likes of Orbit and stuff like that. You'll be able to play them in the US as well.
Yeah, good point. I actually have I believe it's the US subscription. So this is my first time. So of course I do look at regions when I'm buying, but
Mhm.
I'm region free. So apologies to my wallet, but congrats to my eyeballs. But yeah, so I'm glad I'm getting this. In fact, I did not check the regions, so I'm curious which ones. I think you have the option to upgrade, or I say upgrade to have a bonus title or purchase a title with your monthly slot. I believe that's how it works, but it's
Okay.
still new to it. So yeah, if I didn't, I would get this one in a heartbeat. So I'm really looking forward to this. And yes, Kat Ellinger. I see a lot of these features were 2006, so I
Mhm.
don't know of another disc or Blu-ray, but there could have been one somewhere, maybe in Italy, who knows? But Kat Ellinger, I agree, she's amazing, and I always enjoy her visual essays. So looking forward to her insights about this film.
For sure. The next release then is coming from Jacques Rivette. This is the second Rivette release the Radiants have done after doing Le Morphu. This is called Va Savoir. Apologies if my French isn't good, but I think that's pretty okay, Va Savoir.
Yeah,
Um,
that's good.
I haven't heard of this one. Obviously, I'm familiar with Rivette. I haven't seen actually a lot of his films. I'm pretty sure I've only seen Celine and Julie go boating. I don't recall seeing another Rivette film, but I own several. Um, the run times scare me. This one doesn't seem as bad from a runtime perspective. Which I should say, actually, this is a double disc release, which I don't recall this Radiance putting out a double disc in like a single packaging before. I might be wrong, but I don't recall seeing it before. But this is a double disc because it features both the kind of theatrical cut, which is 154 minutes, which is a breeze by Rivette standards. And then there's also what they're calling the director's original cut, Varsovia Plus, which is nearly 4 hours long, 223 minutes, which is it seems much more Rivette-esque. Um, so it does feature both in new 4K restorations, which is great. Um, Special features wise, there's a select scene commentary because if you sat down to do a commentary for a 4 hour vet film, then you would need all the drugs.
And
Archival
all the
interview
coffee.
with all the coffee, yes. An archival interview with the Rivette, archival interview with star Jean Balibar, interview with critic Jonathan Romney, which is from 2024. So I'm guessing it's probably a new one, but it doesn't specify, and once again has a booklet. And this is once again region free, so everyone can enjoy. Have you haven't seen this one either, Aaron? Is that right?
I actually have seen this one,
Oh,
but
okay, cool. Tell us your
kind of.
thoughts.
Well, kind of in the style of Rivette, I couldn't tell you a thing about it because, if I remember, L'Amour Fou is a long one as well.
Yeah.
This one, I'm very tickled to be on the show for this because French New Wave is a big deal for me, like a lot of people, and Rivette
Mhm.
is a big deal. Now, this is not a New Wave film. This is later in his career. This is a very different filmmaker, but I do know. that I'm guessing Fran, they when he was with Arrow, they put out One, and that lovely box set which had the bonus films. You mentioned Celine and Julie,
Mhm.
so this is probably not like that either. Or Celine and Julie.
I don't
Celine and
remember
Julie go
which order it
boating.
is either. They
Yeah,
go boating. Oh, that's all I remember.
they do go boating. Well, they do a lot of stuff. They go upstairs and yeah, they do a whole lot.
Something about a
Of course,
cat.
yeah, Paris Belongs to Us, of course, is his big original or early film, and so this one is later career, and so 2001. So I'm thinking of so he did the Joan of Arc films in the mid 90s, I want to say, and he did I'm gonna mispronounce, is it La Belle Noiseuse, I believe. My French
Oh,
is
yes, yes,
pretty.
yes. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So that's about a decade earlier. Yeah, I think that was like 91, 92, and that's a masterpiece. I think that's actually arguably one of his best works. But it also is a new, different, I should say, type. It's not like Out One where, it's improvised. It's more cohesive. It's a narrative. It's gripping, actually. In fact, I would say that La Belle Noiseuse is one of the best films I've seen about art and about the creation of art, and it has Emmanuel Bert, and the thing is, she is often a nude model in the
Hmm.
film, but it doesn't feel creepy in a way, if that makes sense. She really is a great subject, and I think it's the appropriate way to cover that film. So yeah, I don't remember this. This was one of the early films I saw when I was cutting my teeth on the new wave. So I that was probably around the time it came out. It definitely wasn't in theaters. So it was either Netflix or some other means that I can't talk about on this show that was more common in 2001. But but yeah, no, I am down for any Rivette film. You haven't gotten the special features yet, but I'm just looking here, and I believe these writers are actually the same writers of La Belle Noiseuse. So I think they must have worked with them. Uh, yeah, Pascal Bonitzer and Christine Laurent. Um,
Look it up now. Le Bel Nessun.
Screenwriter. I mean, usually they wouldn't have screenwriters that didn't work. So I'm guessing they worked
Yeah,
on this
Pascal
film.
Bonitzer and Christine Lauren and Jacques Rabet. Yeah, they're all credited for La Belle. Nessun. I can't pronounce that one either. Um, and
uh,
then
Oh, they also worked on the Joan of Arc. So yeah, they're very much in the late career of Rivette. And it's interesting what a lot of the French New Wave filmmakers became. Arrow put out the Chabrol sets, for example. I don't know
mhm.
if Fran was there then at that time. I can't remember. That was a couple years ago. And those were there are two sets of late films.
Yeah.
Revettes are different because they're still long, they're still great, but they're not as I'm trying to think of the word meandering. I would say Out One is, and Celine and Julie even are a little bit um, wandering. They're not as focused. So my memory of this, given that I don't remember it very well, maybe it is meandering, but I remember it being good. So take that for what it's worth.
Okay.
And
Well,
Jonathan Romney actually, so I'm on Blue Sky. I put together a list of Criterion essayists, which turned out to be a larger project than I anticipated, especially when you're writing a book. And he's written some for Criterion. It was a nice way to get into the world of a lot of film scholars. So I forget which releases, but he's a really good scholar, really good writer, and I can't remember if he's on Blue Sky or if he's on that list. But the name stuck out well because of his last name. There's a politician with that name here in the States, which I won't go into, but I'm sure he'll give some really wonderful insights into Rivette in this film.
awesome. And then the last release we have is a Seijun Suzuki Films. This is, if I remember correctly, I want to say the third, or is it even now? Well, obviously the third now, including what's coming out in January. Or is it the fourth? I'm trying to remember. A lot of Suzuki releases.
Hmm.
Seems to be a favorite director of Fran, which is understandable. So this is a film called A Tale of Sorrow and Sadness, and if you were to tell me the plot of this film, which I'm just going to read the blurb that's kind of on the cover. So the editor of a sports magazine grooms fashion model Reiko Tabakome, a pro golfer. Reiko becomes a media sensation, but when she and her manager cause a hit and run accident, the victim begins to blackmail her, intruding further and further into Reiko's personal life. If you told me that plot and said, "Okay, Adam, now guess the director." I would be here all day and I would not say Suzuki. I just don't really, I just associate him more with either kind of really kitschy crime movies, which I guess this kind of is if it's about hit and run and blackmail. Either really kitschy crime movies or really long, meandering meditations on art. That's like my two experiences with Suzuki. So this sounds really fun. Which I'm not saying Suzuki isn't fun, although I personally don't really like that kind of later artsy stuff. But his earlier stuff is definitely very fun. But this sounds very, very fun by his standards, at least. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to this film. I've obviously never seen it before. I'd never even heard of it before.
Yeah, and I'm actually regretting that you had a day in advance of prep from because I did not see that the teases from Radiance, but yeah, Suzuki is crucial. I actually as I pulled up, we actually have a gentleman teaching a Japanese New Wave class on our platform, and I wanted to see which Suzuki films he had on the syllabus, and it's only one. It's Gate of Flesh, so that's a little earlier during the new wave. Obviously, this is post new wave. And I want to say, so I don't know if you know this, but Suzuki was banned from filmmaking by
Yeah.
Japan. I don't know if it was banned or if it like an actual ban or if he just couldn't get any work.
Yeah, he was just
But I want to,
blacklisted for being too weird from what I recall. The guys at
yes.
Nikatsu were just like, no, you're too weird. You're not making us any money. Go away.
And what's crazy is I think his last film was Branded to Kill, which
It
is
was,
such a
yeah.
great film. Yeah. So this must be one of his first film or two. I don't. So yeah, it's weird for him to go from Branded to Kill, have a little time to himself, and then come back with a movie about a golfer. So, not what I expect. I actually just pulled up the IMDb and I see there's only 300 ratings. So this is a very, very, again, this is the wonderful thing about Radiance is they bring these titles to us. So I would have never imagined being able to see this. Yeah, reading the plot synopsis, I don't, I would never, like you said, that's a good analogy. Would never have guessed it was Seijan Suzuki, and I have no idea what to expect actually, because this is a part of his career that, like you, I don't know as well. I know his early and his late career, and I'm with you. Um, the the later stuff, I like Pistol Opera pretty well, but some of the other stuff is a little indulgent for me. Which is
Yeah.
funny, me saying that after we just talked about Rivette,
Yeah.
who is
Yeah, it's the likes of
basically in,
like Sigourney Vice and that kind of era. I think there's a particular trilogy that Arrow put out. I can't remember the title of it
yeah,
now.
that's right. That's
But
right.
yeah, I don't vibe with that particularly.
But yeah, so I can't wait. I'm actually just so wow. Suzuki directed 57 films. That is for that decade that he wasn't directing. That is so many. But I love his new wave films. So I as mentioned, Gate of Flesh is a great post-war American film or post-war Japanese occupation, I should say, American
Mhm.
occupation. And then of course Tokyo Drifter, Branded to Kill, Flying Elegy. Those are the big ones. Yeah, so this is going to be new for me. So again, thank you, Radiance. I'm glad I subscribed.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
what's weird though is it's a tale of sorrow. So the synopsis. So yeah, a tale of sorrow and sadness is not one that would be very attractive for me to say. Okay, well, I'm ready for some sorrow and sadness in the player. And when reading the synopsis, it sounds more like a thriller, but a
But then
golf.
the artwork looks very kitschy, so like I don't
Yeah.
really know what to expect.
I have no idea. So yeah, I guess we'll all be surprised together. But
Yeah,
it
for
looks
sure.
great. I can't. It actually, this what looks like one of the highlights. Uh, Ironically, this is probably one of the ones I'll put in the player first.
Mhm.
I'm really looking forward to it. What's the runtime though? That's the thing.
That's a great question. It's not listed on the website, but I can pull it up on Letterbox real quick. If it's sub 100
Well,
minutes, oh, 93 minutes. This is why
yeah,
Suzuki's the GOAT.
th this is his short film period. That wouldn't always be the case, but yeah,
No.
he can do a lot with without a lot of. So yeah, that's where we go from Rivette, who likes to do 8 hour movies, and yeah, the efficient, brisk 90 minute golfing tragedy, I guess. I don't know.
We'll
No
find out.
spoilers, but
It might be a
yeah, we'll
comedy.
find out.
It might be a drama. We don't know. We'll find out together, I guess. Looking at
Only
this one, this.
Suzuki would name a comedy Sorrow and Sadness. Sorry.
Yeah, for sure. The region for this is A and B, so I'm going to assume there must be a release of this in Japan already, because it's not listed as being completely region free. It doesn't have region C here, just as A and B. Um, Looking at the special features, there's one that I'll get to towards the end. There's a new interview with the editor, which is Kunihiko Ukai, which was filmed literally this year, apparently 2025, which is quick work by them. There
Wow. Yeah.
is
Just
uh,
yesterday.
it's just yesterday. Congrats. And there is another kind of booklet with some writing as well as archival reviews. Um, Interestingly, there is an audio commentary by Sam Deegan, which was again newly recorded, and just as a little kind of sort of thing, a teaser or something to look forward to on the episode that we'll be covering these films on. So the kind of episode that comes out around the start of May. Sam is going to be my guest, so we'll be able to pick her brains properly in this film. Not that I'm sure she'll cover pretty much everything we need to know in the commentary, but I'll be able to
Sure.
further
Yeah.
annoy her with more questions when she's on for that episode. So I'm really looking forward to having Sam on to talk about this film and the other films when we get there.
Well, I look forward to hearing that. And I will please send my apologies along to Sam because I misgendered her on another podcast.
Oh, okay.
And guiltily, the thing is, I know her from Reputation, I know her work, but this is, I busted. I don't often, I don't always open and watch all my discs and commentaries, especially since I'm so focused on, a book and Criterion. So I had not listened to one of her commentaries, but she just has a great reputation. So I misgendered her as a he. So apologies, Sam. I know you are a female, and I will actually. This is a great release for a commentary. So because there's probably so much that is not known. So and yes, you're not a selected scene. You don't need that for 93 minutes. So good
No,
job getting
definitely
a
not.
short one, Sam. But look forward to checking that out. And I know she's always I know her by reputation. She's always great. So now I will make it a point to watch her commentaries. And now I know her gender. I apologies.
Well, look,
Apologize.
it was big of you to put your hands up, so you could have just ignored it. So that's fair dues to you
I,
for that.
imagine it's not the first time her name is Sam, but you know,
I'm
uh,
sure it happens.
play it
Uh,
again, Sam.
the last thing that's not kind of Radiance sort of related, but we'll throw it in. There's a Raro Video UK release of Killer Cop. From what I've found, it seems as though there is already a Raro release of this in the US. This seems like it's just a port, I guess, for the Raro UK
Mhm.
kind of sub-label. Um, so that's also coming out at the end of April. If you are not a subscriber and you kind of buy stuff month on month, you can pre-order all the titles. If you add all the titles to your basket, including Killer Cop, if you add all of them to the title, sorry, at least four. So you don't have to include Killer Cop. Okay, that's an important point. If you add at least four of the April releases, you will get 10% off. That discount runs until the 5th of February because the next announcements will be on the 6th of February. So if you're someone who just kind of pre-order stuff month on month as opposed to doing a subscription, there's the usual 10% discount there if you add at least four of the items to your basket. So that's the new stuff out of the way. Um,
We're not going to talk about Killer Cop? Uh,
do
I
you have
just
much to say on Killer Cop? And I'm not familiar with it at
well,
all. I don't actually own many of I only own one of the Raro releases. Um,
yeah, just maybe really quickly. I just looked it up, and the Italian translation is "The police hands are tied," and I'm just looking at the cover there, and that's what the cover. I actually think that's a better
that
title than
title is way
Killer
better.
Cop.
Oh, for sure. That's
Yeah,
way better.
Killer Cop is so generic. Like, you might think that that's probably been a title for other movies. I mean, that just sounds like a studio. So, but this looks like it's in. I cannot say the Italian genre, but the crime genre.
The
There's a word.
Poliziotteschi, yeah.
Wow, yeah, you got it. That's the word. I'm not even going to try it. But it has. So I like. They Radiance has done Tony Argenta, I think. I know that's one of
Tony
theirs.
Arzenta, yeah, it's a Radiance release with Alain Delon.
What have they done to your daughters is one I like. So it's a genre. I don't know if Rosie's Illustrious Corpses would count for this genre. It's technically French, yeah, French Italian, I believe, but that's with Lino Ventura. This one looks pretty great. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
there's been a
I don't
few
know it
Raro
or
releases.
yeah.
I haven't picked them up, but there's been a few that have caught my eye. The only one I own is Revenge of the Blood Beast, which is not a Polizia Tecci film. That's a straight horror film. And I picked that one up because it's made by Michael Reeves, who did Witchfinder General and has
Oh,
Barbara
nice.
Steele. So that's why I picked that one up specifically because I wanted to watch that because of Michael Reeves and Barbara Steele. But there's a couple of Polizia Tecci films that are pretty highly kind of recommended that have been put out under this Raro sort of sub-label. The Boss is probably the most famous one by Fernando De
Okay.
Leo. Death Occurred Last Night is meant to be very good as well. Gang War in Milan. And then there was also one that was announced that's coming out at the end of March, um, which stars Jack Palance, funnily enough. It's called
Oh,
Rulers of the City.
interesting.
And the artwork's amazing because it just has Palance's face. He has just such unique features. His cheekbones and his chin are just so unique. And yeah, the artwork for that one's really great. I've been meaning to pick up more of the Raro video stuff because I'm somewhat interested in the Polizia Tecce, even though I haven't gotten too deep into the subgenre. But yeah,
Well, you
like
can say it.
killer.
The word can't even come out of my mouth. So, yeah, I'm just looking at the release. I also see that Eugenio Ercolani, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, and Troy Howarth are doing the commentary as well. And that's a great, that pair actually are great to do a commentary. In fact, if I were to write a book of something and cite something from that genre, these are probably two people I'd look for. I believe they've written a few things previously. So, yeah, I guess I will have to add this. I will have to get this. This is a good one.
Yeah, the release is region free as well. So even if you're not region free, this is something you could pick up. As I said, I'm fairly positive that there is a specific region A release of this. This is under the kind of sub label of Raro Video UK that Radiance are kind of partnered with.
Oh,
So
very
if
cool.
you're in the US listening, I'm pretty sure there is a specific region A release of this. But if obviously if you're not, if you're listening in Europe, UK, Ireland, etc., then this would be the place to buy it. Um, cool. Are we
Quite
gonna
a
move?
slate. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good April.
it
Looking
is a
forward to
very good
that.
slate. Honestly, it's really good. Um, not that any of the previous slates haven't been good or anything, but I can honestly say I'm looking forward to every single one of these films for different reasons, whether it be filling in kind of blank spots from directors that I'm familiar with, or just getting to revisit a film that I really liked in River of Grass and getting to own a physical copy of that.
Mhm.
It ticks a lot of boxes for me. So I'm really happy with this month. I'm looking forward to April.
And we have a sad golf movie too, apparently. So,
I'm
yeah,
just so I'm so intrigued by A Tale of Sorrow and Sadness.
me
I
too. Me
can't wait to
too.
know just what's the vibe, what's the tone that we're gonna
And
get.
please,
It's a
nobody tell
mystery
us. Yeah, I want to be surprised,
for
but
sure.
it might be very sorrowful and sad. I might be crying at the end after those 93 minutes. So, no, but great job. And of course, when you invited me to this episode, I had no idea what was coming out. So, the odds are that wouldn't have seen any. So I'm glad to have seen either some of them and some tangential films. But yeah, this is very radiancy this month, if
Yeah.
I can use that phrase.
Well, no, I
Love
think
it.
that's fair because, half like two out of the four have already are featuring directors that have already featured in
Yeah,
in the label already. So I think that's very fair. And we have our token Italian film and our token American indie film. So I think we're covering a lot of the bases that
yeah.
Radiants like to cover, which is great.
Can't
Um,
wait.
Awesome. Well, look, we'll kind of go on and talk about the stuff that came out at the end of December. So we have two kind of single releases, and then we have the box set. I'll just kind of go through the single releases first because I know Aaron, you haven't had a chance to watch these. We're obviously mainly going to talk about the box set because it was the big news of 2024. This release when it was kind of announced. But the first of the single releases is a film from Bo Widerberg, the Swedish director, and it's called The Man from Majorca. This is the second Bo Widerberg film that Radiance have put out. One of their early releases was The Man on the Roof. It was part of maybe their second or third release slate. But I only actually got around to watching it when this one was announced. I wanted to make sure I kind of knew more about Widerberg's style. I know that he does have a Criterion box set in Region A. I haven't imported that one, but I believe they're on the Criterion channel, if I remember correctly. I don't know if have you seen those films by any chance, Aaron? The ones that Criterion put out a while ago?
So again, another confession. I own this and I have not unwrapped the plastic.
That's
So,
just
uh,
normal for any collector, so you don't need to be too ashamed.
well, when you're writing a book, it that kind of dominates your viewing time. But Bo, I think I'll never get Swedish pronunciations, but I want to say it's actually
Possibly.
Vitterberg, yeah, the G's are really tough to pronounce. But I have not seen any of his films and I have not watched this set, but I do know about him and I know that he was so speaking of new wave movements, I think he was really kind of pushing back against Swedish film. And I want to say this I did look up this one ahead of time, A Man of Majorca, and I want to say Jan Troell did some, or maybe that was an earlier film he worked with Troell. But really, at that point, Swedish cinema was Bergman. That was,
Mhm.
I don't want to reduce it to just that, but and of course, in the '60s, the mid '60s, that was when Bergman was on a roll, making some of the, what a lot of people call the greatest films of all time. And so I think he was pushing against that, and so I'm really intrigued by him. And this one, I don't know if it's the same flavor as some of those early films, uh, but
So again,
it seems like more
without
of
being
an
able to see
action.
them, yeah, without being able to see them, but from what I've read on the Criterion ones, they're kind of more, like I said, kind of pushing boundaries. These are at least the Man from Majorca and also the Man on the Roof. They're very much kind of gritty crime dramas, police procedural films.
Right,
This
right,
film here, The Man from Majorca, would be very similar kind of tone and vibe wise to something like The French Connection, just kind of very gritty, boots in the ground, cops driving around cars, chasing down, solving mysteries. It's very kind of just gritty, straight, intense kind of mystery crime films. Um, this would be a great pickup for anyone who likes kind of Nordic noir, which, had a big thing
Mm,
like 10 years ago. Everyone was into Nordic noir TV series like 10 years ago, like The Bridge and The
right.
Killing and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
Bergman or not yeah, I'm
Bergen,
thinking about
yeah,
Bergen, difference, big
Bergen,
difference.
yeah.
Uh,
So this would be like kind of like an earlier precursor to that stuff. This was it's a really good film. The story is great. It's a really good mystery. The kind of main cast are just these two just normal cops who accidentally stumble on a larger conspiracy. I think they're like, if I remember correctly, they're like narcotics cops or they're just like two. They're not like involved. They're not like homicide detectives or anything like that, but they accidentally kind of stumble on his crime and start peeling back layers, and they kind of find a bigger conspiracy. So it's a really interesting film to see cops exploring that. A lot of the time, yeah, you see these films of like people stumbling onto conspiracies, and it's like an everyman. It's interesting to kind of see a film where it's doing that just from like actual police officers, but are kind of in over their head because they're not used to dealing with these kind of cases. Um, so it's an interesting film. It's really good. It's about 2 hours long, but it doesn't feel it. It goes by pretty
hmm.
quick. So if you're into kind of crime, mystery, police procedural style films, this would be a really good pickup that I'd recommend. I would also recommend The Man on the Roof as well. I don't know if I doubt that the limited edition is still available. I'm sure it's probably a standard edition, still available. But yeah, but from what I've read, they're very different to the Criterion ones. So it does seem as though he had his own eras where he was doing different
Yeah,
things. But
it's
these
funny how.
ones have been great so far. Anyway, if I hope there's more crime ones that Radiance can put out.
Yeah, it's funny how new wave directors, they complain about the old school. So at the point when he began his career, Bergman probably was seen as old, formalistic. Maybe not. In fact, I don't even think Bergman. I mean, Bergman was loved in Sweden, of course, and did a lot
Mhm.
of theater, but not like it's kind of like the French critics, seeing all those, Clouseau, for example, or Allegret. So hating those old directors. So it's tough to fathom that somebody would push back against Bergman and then make cop movies. But I hear he's a great filmmaker, and I'm looking forward to getting into that Criterion set, and I would like to get this one someday. So maybe From Orbit. I don't know if is that region A as well, or
It's
I mean, it
region
doesn't
free.
matter.
Yeah, it's a region
Okay.
free release. I know it doesn't matter to you, but if anyone is not region free, then you don't need to worry about it because the release is region free.
Great.
Yeah, it's a really good film. Like I said, if any listeners are into just crime dramas, it's not super artsy. It's very easy to pick up. Like I even texted my dad after I finished it, and my dad's not really a filmy guy at all, but he loves police procedurals, and not just
Nice.
like he'll watch, like it doesn't matter where in the world. He'll text me. It's like, oh, I'm watching this Iranian cop show. I'm watching this Czech cop show. It's just like he just loves cop shows. It doesn't matter where in the
Hmm.
world. He just loves a good cop detective story. So I text him afterwards, and funnily enough, actually, I'll this is a good thing, actually. If you're in the UK and Ireland, very randomly, this film is on Netflix. So if you wanted to try before you buy, if you're in the UK and Ireland, it is streaming on Netflix because that's what I said to my dad. This film's on Netflix, and I only found that out because when I added it to my watch list on Letterboxd, it obviously I have Netflix as one of my things that I subscribe to, so Letterboxd tells me if it's streaming there. And it's like, yeah, this film's randomly on Netflix for some reason. Don't know why they licensed this specific film. Um, but yeah, like I said, it's really what's the word? It's just really accessible. It's just a good crime drama thriller mystery. There's nothing really like artsy fartsy or pretentious about it. It's just a good film.
I'm checking my Netflix to see if it's here, but yeah, no, it looks like a fun film. I'll get back to you on that.
For sure. The other singular release, which is a film by Ichi Kudo, and it's called Yokohama NJ Blues. I don't know if you're familiar with this one, Aaron. I know obviously you haven't seen it, but I don't know if you're familiar with it. Um, it is basically a loose retelling of The Long Goodbye, but in kind of 80s Yokohama, so in 80s kind of Japan.
Huh.
Um, it's a cool film. I actually only just watched it earlier today, so it's very fresh in my mind. It's a cool film. It's very kitschy. It does kind of follow that tone of the Altman film where it has like what I like to call stoner noir, where it's like there's a mystery and there's a crime here, but like we're gonna vibe out and we're gonna have a chill time at the same time. So it does follow that aesthetic a little bit. But basically follows this guy. He's a blues singer, who moonlights as a private detective, to make his ends meet. And his friend is a cop. The cop gets killed, and the other cops think that he was involved because he was also kind of doing some jobs for the Yakuza who kind of put the hit out on the cop, and he has to try and clear his name basically. So it's pretty kind of standard, straightforward plot, but there's a lot of meandering, and not in a bad way, but there's a lot of meandering just to kind of set mood and vibe and atmosphere. There's a lot of scenes of him just singing blues songs in a bar with a full band. And it's like proper, like, it's not like old time blues, it's like, Blues Brothers style blues. It's like these really cool rock songs that he's just, like the director will just start showing a scene where he's just singing a song, and then he'll get back to the mystery, and then he'll go back the next night because he has to make some money, so he goes back and sings some more songs, and then he gets back to the mystery again. So it's not a super serious film or anything like that. I wouldn't go as far to say it's a comedy or anything, but um it's a kitschy kind of neo noir. It's not super gritty or anything like that. But it's a fun film. I didn't really the only other film I've seen by Ichi Kudo is the one that's included in the Bounty Hunter box set that Radiance put out. The Fort of Death. Kudo is very much a samurai film or like a Jedegeke film director. But this is obviously a much different film. It's obviously, set contemporary. So it's a very different type of film for him as a director, and I really liked the direction in this film. It's very interesting. There's a lot of really cool framing, and the color grading is really interesting. Everything's kind of washed out in blue to kind of give that theme of the blues. Everything's kind of washed out in blue as well. Um, but it's a fun time if you like neo noir, especially if you like the kind of more kitschier kind of stoner noir stuff. Then this film would be up your alley.
So maybe kind of like a more washed out, kitschier Thief, like Michael Mann's Thief,
Yeah. It's
a little bit.
similar enough aesthetic to Thief. Yeah, that's a good call out. I didn't think of that one when I was watching it, but now that you say it, yeah, for sure, I could see some similarities there.
Interesting. Well, I love Thief. Of course, I won't expect the same. And I love The Long Goodbye. So yeah, this one wasn't on my radar, and I hadn't ordered. I did not know I would be a subscriber when these were announced. Oh yeah, maybe I did actually. Well, no, I probably didn't because this was December releases. But yeah, this looks like a fun film. Kitschy. Who doesn't like a kitschy noir, post noir? So yeah,
No,
there
for
are
sure.
plenty in my collection.
Absolutely. And this one is available in region A and B. So again, I assume there's probably some kind of release of it in sort of Asian markets for it to be only here as A and B. I haven't
And
gotten a chance to go through
by the
any
way,
special features or anything, but yeah.
sorry, I wanted to just interject that the Vitaberry is not on Netflix here. So if you're
Uh,
in the US, you must buy that.
you have to buy it. But look, that's capitalism, baby. What can you say? That's just part of the game. You have to buy it if you want it.
Have to buy it.
Uh, but yeah, with the Yokohama BJ Blues, I didn't get a chance to go through the special features because I just watched the film today. But there does seem to be there's a lot of different interviews and stuff like that, that are on there. And as always, there's a booklet as well. So if you picked it up and you haven't thrown it in the player yet, definitely get around to it. Like I said, if you enjoy kind of crime films that are not afraid to kind of meander in and kind of bring you on a different kind of a journey than a kind of straight detective film would. So in thinking about it, Yokohama BJ Blues and The Man from Majorca are both very different films about very similar things. Detective story, solving a murder mystery, etc. Um, they're very similar in their basic plotting, but they could not be more different in terms of how the story is told. Which is why we all love film. There's so many different ways to tell stories.
Yes, and we're about to get to some heretical ways to tell stories.
Absolutely. So, yeah, this is the kind of cherry on top. This was probably the biggest announcement of 2024. Um, it was something that I had known that Fran had wanted to do for a long time because he spoke about it on the very first episode that, Bunuel is his favorite director and he'd love to release stuff. Obviously, he knew then, but he, didn't want to let the cat out of the bag, which is fair enough.
Sure.
But I can only imagine how happy he was to get this over the line, and that is Nothing is Sacred: Three Heresies by Louis Bunuel. This is the box set that came out at the end of December, which features three of his Mexican efforts, which is Viridiana, The Exterminating Angel, and Simon of the Desert. Although I'm pretty sure Viridiana was actually shot in Spain, but I think this one gets
Yes,
lumped in with the
it
Mexican
was
ones.
there's a story behind that. But yes, it was shot in Spain, but te I guess technically a Mexican, yeah, it was
Mexican
banned and
production,
well,
yeah.
yeah, and was ushered out. I'm actually kind of almost they somebody should make a film of them actually taking Viridiana and getting it out of Spain and getting it to Cannes and getting it released, but because that's a story in itself. Uh, yes, congrats, Fran. I don't drink, but I'm raising my glass to you for this. It just arrived, and that's the thing with shipping to America is sometimes it takes a while. Was hoping to get this a little earlier and get some more time with it, but I did watch Viridiana, and I'm holding the box here. This is just gorgeous. This is probably in the conversation for my box set of the year, which is saying something because it came out in December. But yeah, this is very, very special. I'm a massive Buñuel fan. He's had so many different types of careers, and I just love that Radiance was able to capture this very specific era. And I think these three films really are these heresies. really are what he was a very distinct kind of message he was trying to send, even though one was more controversial than the others. They're all kind of pushing the boundaries. So yeah, this is a lovely. Had you seen any of these films before,
I
Adam?
had seen Viridiana a few years ago. I hadn't seen either of the other two. In fact, I wasn't even fully sure I'd ever heard of Simon of the Desert. But I'd heard of The Exterminating
Really?
Angel, of
Wow.
course, yeah. But Simon of the Desert wasn't one that was ever on my radar. But I saw Viridiana a few years ago and I liked it. So I was looking forward to revisiting it. Obviously, I watched all three when the box set came in. It's a beautiful box, as you said. We love the rigid, hard case that Radiance put their box, do with their
Yes.
box sets. I love that because there's nothing worse than a flimsy digipack. So the hard kind of rigid casing that they do for their box sets is always appreciated. The kind of black on pink aesthetic is really beautiful. All the individual artwork as well is stunning for each individual disc. It's all beautifully done. Um, and in terms of the content of the set, so just kind of give kind of my brief thoughts on these films. Viridiana, as I said, I'd already seen, so I kind of knew what it was about going in. Although, for some reason, I always mix up Viridiana with Diary of a Chambermaid, as I've seen both,
Hmm.
and in my brain, I
Not
always
anymore.
confuse the two. Um, yeah, Viridiana, that it's such a playful film while also being very serious. And you can kind of say that about all the films in this set. Bunuel really loves to tread that line where he is he's showing you imagery that's very satirical, but also very subtle, while also not being subtle. It's such a distinct style he has. There's little things that you
Yes.
can miss. There's a few images that jump out. Like obviously the most obvious one is the one that's on the front of the box set, the pocket knife concealed within a crucifix. Like
Hmm.
that's such an amazing image to kind of show that off. There's other parts as well. There's the part where Verdiana is going to milk the cow and this lady who's going to become a nun is suddenly reaching for what looks suspiciously like a male member. It's very scandalous imagery, but also not to the point where I think you can really say that he's being blasphemous or anything. I know that the Spanish church will disagree with me on that, but it's very playful imagery. It is humorous, um, but the film itself is also deals with some kind of serious enough themes. This idea of you know charity is not always perfect, and every good deed you set it to do is not always going to be met with kind of good deeds in return, etc., etc. Um, so I enjoyed Viridiana. I thought the lead performance from Sylvia Pinal was very good. The supporting performances are all very good as well, especially those playing the kind of down and out characters that end up occupying her mansion. Um, were all very good. Um, the exterminating angel was interesting.
Okay, so you did see it for the first time.
This was the first time seeing The Exterminating. Yeah, I have watched all three now. I just
Oh,
hadn't seen
okay,
them
gotcha,
prior.
gotcha.
So The
Yeah,
Exterminating was
it's a tough
interesting.
one. Yeah, did you like it?
I respect it. I don't know if I'd say I'd like it, and this is definitely more of a me thing. This is a very acclaimed film. Um, it's one thing that really caught me during watching it was how normal the film is while also
Mhm.
being very abnormal. So, like, this is very different to something like surrealism, where, something like a David Lynch film, or even,
Oh,
pushing the
absolutely.
boat further, just like pure surrealism, where for me, there's a line between surrealism and absurdism. So the way I would describe them would be surrealism is showing something that could not happen just due to the laws of our reality, and kind of showing that in art or on film as a way to kind of put across a theme or an idea. Um, and for me, something becomes absurd as opposed to surreal when it could happen. There's nothing in the laws of reality to say this couldn't happen, but it wouldn't because it would be weird if it did. And that's where I would put The Exterminating Angel. For those who are not familiar with this film, it's basically a group of rich people congregate at this big mansion after the opera, and weird little things start happening with their evening, kind of gets weirdly interrupted, and people start doing things that they can't really explain why they're doing them. And suddenly, for some reason, nobody's leaving, even though people are talking about they got to go home, it's late or whatever, but they don't leave, and nobody can ever leave, but they never address why they can't leave. And it just kind of goes on, and just weird and bizarre things happen inside the house. Not in a bizarre and a surreal way. It's just like weird that nobody is addressing how weird this is, all while the film is shot just very normally. There's not like weird. There's only real like one instance of what I would call surreal imagery, and it's made very clear that it's a dream. So it's a very strange film to watch. When I was watching it, all I could think of was like, this is what the rules of the game would be like if someone spiked their coffees.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a challenging film. I love it. I love both. I mean, I love all the entire set. That's hence one of my favorites of the year. Uh, yeah, Buñuel is kind of a troll in a way as a
yeah, that's a
filmmaker.
great way to put it. Yeah.
And even with I can't say it, Veridiana, even the scandalous. Now, of course, standards have changed. I'm
Mhm.
writing an A24 book, and they have a movie this year called Heretic, which is far more scandalous. I'm sure the church has no. They're not going to watch a film that's titled Heretic, but it really is not that bad. Now, of course, the actions of some of the characters. What the worst thing you can do to a nun is it takes place, and in fact, I'd say the characters are kind of trolls as well in Viridiana. But the Exterminating Angel. Now, I haven't rewatched the one from this box yet, but I think it's as far as social commentary and as you put it, surrealism. It's surreal without being surreal, because as you mentioned, it's just average, ordinary. We have no idea what's going on,
Mhm.
and kind of a journey through this experiment. It's really a conceit and a concept that Buñuel plays with to make a statement. Now, I hate to be the guy to say watch something twice, and I don't know if you have plans to, but I think this is a film that does benefit repeat viewings. I think I've seen it at least twice. I'm not positive, so it'll be a third time when I watch from this box. But yeah, your take is not unique, and I'm not saying that to belittle you. I'm just saying that it's a challenging film, and Buñuel is a challenging director. So sometimes what a film professor said about Godard, I think would apply to Buñuel, is sometimes hating Buñuel is getting Buñuel. So or not saying you hated this, but maybe not as impressed with it. But yeah, I think it's a fine film, one of his
Yeah,
best. But
like I
yeah,
definitely respect it. I would say I was impressed with it in a certain degree because it kept my attention the whole way because I was like, what the fuck is this? And
it
what was catching me off guard was just how normal it was while also being abnormal, and it was just the way that Buñuel can kind of put that together so seamlessly is that's the part that I really
yeah,
respect because it's such a normal film. Like if like my wife had walked in, sat down for 5 minutes and then left again, she would think that that was like a really normal film about rich people. She wouldn't think that anything was
yeah.
wrong.
Oh, yeah. Your point about rules of the game is great. Rules of the game where they just stay there and
Yeah.
and go about their business is a good comparison. Yeah, no, it's a very unique and special film. So I'm glad. I think that was a big boon for Radiance to get that one. Well, all of them actually, but yeah, no, I'm not surprised you didn't, you know, come away with considering it a masterpiece. But I do think it's in that conversation of his best films.
And just on that, from what you said about being a coup to get it, this was originally from Criterion, if I remember correctly, in Region 8. Did it ever get a Blu-ray or was it only on DVD? I'm just trying to remember if there was something about that, or maybe I'm
You know, I
misremembering.
I I think it was in a set. So actually, yeah, I think it was DVD. I'm actually searching Criterion.
So I'm doing
Um,
that too, so that's good.
okay. So yeah, oh, well, it was upgraded to
Oh,
Blu-ray, and the
it was
DVD is
upgraded.
out of
Okay.
print. Yeah, so yeah, I thought it had. So that's where I've seen it was I'd seen it years ago, when I was a burgeoning cinephile,
Hmm.
and then I watched the Criterion, which came out Spawn for I'm not sure when it came out, but it's probably been a good 5 years or so. And that's a great release, but yeah, the print is probably very outdated. I'm sure Radiance blows it away. And yeah, it's quite a film. Maybe they'll do a 4K someday. I don't know, but either way, especially since it's region free, I would recommend if you don't have this set, this is one of those I'd recommend getting. I see that there's an Alexandra Heller-Nicholas commentary on or a visual essay on the exterminating angel. Did you by chance watch that, or have you
No, I
not
haven't
gotten to
gotten a
it?
chance to see any of the visual essays because I'm trying to catch up because mine was also late arriving just due to some logistical issues over Christmas and stuff from the UK and with the storm. So mine was kind of late arriving as well. I hadn't gotten a chance to get to the visual essays. I did watch a couple of the film appreciations that were on. There's appreciations from Richard Ayoade, Alex Cox, Guillermo del Toro, and Lulu Wang. So I've
Oh,
watched the
great. Yeah.
ones from Richard Ayoade and Lulu Wang, but I haven't watched the other two just yet either. We might as well talk about the special features quickly before we talk about Simon of the Desert now that we're here, because this is packed.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah, I
obviously you
haven't got to
have,
them either.
yeah,
Yeah.
because you have the appreciations, but then you also have a feature length documentary on Bunuel. You get another documentary on Bunuel that's nearly feature length. It's 56 minutes. You get another feature length documentary that's 84 minutes. That's three different documentaries that you get all from different time periods. One was from 1983, it was originally done by the BBC. One's from 1995, which was done by Emilio Mallet. And then one is from 2021, which is by Javier Espada. So there's three different kind of near enough to feature length documentaries all about Buñuel, but all from different eras as well, where I'm sure ways of analyzing his films and his career have probably changed. So I'm sure you're probably going to see different perspectives, in each of the documentaries. There's a 48-minute interview with Buñuel that was recorded on French TV in the 60s. There is visual essays, as we mentioned. There's the Alexandra Heller Nicholas one. There's one by Abraham Castillo Flores. There is an audio commentary for Viridiana
Oh,
by
Michael
Michael
Brook.
Brook.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously there's the lovely 80-page booklet which has various writings in it. So this is packed. This is a packed release
Hmm.
in terms of the special features. And I think this is a perfect release for somebody both who is a Buñuel fan who knows Buñuel and knows his films, but also a great starter pack for those who maybe have been meaning to watch Buñuel. Because for the Buñuel fans, it has all this extra content, and then it also has the new 4K scans, which all look beautiful. So you're going to be able to revisit these films in the best way possible as of yet, while also being able to take in all the special features to get more context if you already have seen the films. But I think that these films are also a very good starter pack if you're looking to get into Buñuel and you don't really know where to start. I think these films are a great starting point because they kind of cover so many of his recurring themes in a way that's very accessible and very
Hmm.
kind of easy to digest. Despite The Exterminating Angel being an incredibly weird film, like I said, it is also very normal. It's not hard to watch. Viridiana is very accessible. If any of them are maybe considered inaccessible to a degree, it would be Simon of the Desert. But that one's 45 minutes
Yeah.
long, so it's
Yeah,
not
it's
like you need to
45.
sit
Yeah,
through sit. It's not like you need to
it's
sit through
pretty
2 hours
breezy.
anyway. So it's
Yeah.
very, very, very breezy. It was surprisingly breezy. When I kind of read what it was about, I thought, oh, okay, I don't know about this one.
Hmm.
But like on Simon in the Desert, that might be my favorite of the three. It was just so unique and so different. So kind of playful, very reminiscent of more of like a Fellini style film.
Oh, definitely. I see that.
Like 8.5 or something like that. It has that more of a playful tone, kind of fantastical tone rather than straight surreal. And obviously we don't do spoilers here, so I won't say what the ending is, but I will say that the ending made me jump out of my seat. It was so outrageous.
Yeah,
In a
it's
good
great.
way. It's just a crazy ending. It's just I would have never guessed what could have happened at the end of that film. It's an insane ending. So like I say, I think this set is amazing. Despite the fact that I didn't, like love 5 star every film or anything, the value that you get with the films, the quality of films, the sheer depth of the special features that are involved, this is a must have. And I'll say this as well. Like I said, we're recording on Thursday the 9th. In Radiance's newsletter that they put out yesterday, kind of announcing the new releases, they do their usual kind of letting people know what stock is like. And on Radiance's website, this film is 80, or sorry, this box set is 80% sold out,
Oh,
which
wow, that's terrific.
that's
I
insane.
mean, for Radiance, yes. So yes, I try not to instill FOMO on people because, especially with Criterion, they have pretty unlimited print runs for the most
Yeah.
part. Stuff does go out of print, but yeah, this if you want this one, you better get this. Really is. You called it a starter pack. I actually kind of disagree because I think there's so many different eras of Buñuel. In fact, there's another Criterion pack of his later films, which I think are very, very different. These are very distinct. In fact, Viridiana and Exterminating Angel pair very well because they have dinner, contrasting class dinner situations. And
Yeah.
I don't think it's really a spoiler to say that one of the more scandalous aspects of Viridiana was that they mimicked the Last Supper
Hmm.
and the dinner table. So I think it must. I know I'll read the or watch the features, but I think it was probably very intentional for him to make these three films, especially those two back to back. And actually, I think Simon of the Desert, I'm surprised that's not as scandalous. I don't believe it was banned. I don't recall, but because I think that if I were Catholic, it seems that that might be more heretical than I also don't think the Last Supper was a painting, a Da Vinci painting, so I don't really think of that as religious canon, but I think some Catholics and religious people might disagree. But but yeah, no, I think this is a great starter pack. The documentary is the or not a starter pack, but a starter pack for this era of Buñuel's
Hmm.
history. I see the documentary, the '83 documentary, The Life and Times of Don Louis Buñuel,
Hmm.
have Catherine Deneuve on it, and
Hmm.
that of course Belle de Jour was not long after these. I believe it was '67, and that was kind of there's some friction there between Buñuel and Deneuve, so I'm really curious what she has to say. A couple decades removed, or a little less than that. I actually didn't know this documentary existed, but there's a lot of BBC documentaries I don't know exists. So if you are a Buñuel fan, I would say this is a definitive set to get. Is probably the word definitive is a word I would use
Hmm.
because it's not just about these three films, but it's about him and his entire work. But of course, these three films are among the best of his entire work. But of course, Belle de Jour, Phantom of Liberty, Diary of a Chambermaid, L'Age d'Or,
Discreet
Jeune,
Lives.
Discreet
Or
Lives,
Discreet Charm, sorry.
Bourgeoisie,
Yeah.
Discreet Charm, yes, sorry. Of course, Un Chien Andalusia, which I saw at MoMA. Well, that was fun to watch people watch that. But anyway, yeah, it's a great set. I really loved the print of Ridiana. It was really wonderful rewatching that again. And yeah, no, I think this is a treasure. So if you love art cinema from the '60s, and who doesn't, right? Well, okay, a lot of people don't, but who that subscribes to Radiance doesn't is a better question. And yeah, with these features, I respect all of these people that filmed the appreciations. GDT, Alex Cox, of course, you mentioned Lulu Wang, who also is a A24
Hmm.
figure. So yeah, this is a amazing set. So like I said, my viewing is pretty much spoken for the next couple months, but I'm going to treasure this as I would say palate cleanser. It's not like I'm watching bad movies, but this will be a fun set to watch kind of start and finish. I kind of like doing that with some of these sets, especially when they're so um, full of features, you'll come out of this, not necessarily an expert on Bunuel, but pretty close. This is very, very comprehensive. So,
Hmm.
yeah, great job, everybody. Radiance, love this set.
Perfect. Well, look, that's pretty much everything that we have to cover, and that's all the December releases and obviously the announcements that were done yesterday. Um, Aaron, once again, absolute pleasure to have you on. Always great
Thank
speaking
you.
with you. For listeners, the next episode will be sometime in the second week of February. The next announcements are going to be on the 6th of February. So we'll be somewhere in the middle there. My guest for that episode is exciting. It's going to be. I'm not going to give you the exact names or anything. I'll leave it up to you to figure out. But it will be someone who is doing a commentary track for one of the releases that we're going to be talking about. So I'll leave it like that.
Nice.
So we'll be getting an expert on. You're not going to have to listen to me waffle about these films, thankfully. We'll have an adult in the room who will be able to tell us the right answers for the January releases. So we'll leave it at that. Obviously, I'll leave all Aaron's links in the description if you check out his stuff. Best of luck, Aaron, with the Kickstarter. I'm sure I'll be talking to you plenty in the meantime anyway, but best of luck with that, and hopefully you meet your goals and exceed your goals, and I'm looking forward to sort of seeing the book become a real and have it in my hands.
Likewise, yeah, that'll be the day. It won't be too long now, but thank you for having me. This was lovely, lovely to talk about Radiance, and yeah, I just love what they're doing, and yeah, and this is actually probably the release for me, the Bunuel, especially for me to talk about. So thank you for having me, Adam.
Not a problem at all. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. To hear more shows from the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, please select the link in the description.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror, we'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the 3 hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week, and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.